Okay, so we got time to have a discussion. We talk about three different issues, about the very important issues of the Mediterranean diet, about the diet in general. It's important to note that without discussing before the presentation, we talk about the three different issues, which are in common with a different knowledge. With different message. We need to understand what we are doing. We need to probably come back to our tradition in terms of olive oil, in terms of grains, in terms also of wild plants. And we need to understand what we need to do for the future, because something has been wrong during the last 20 years of our research. Not of our research, but probably of the nutritional research all over the world. Is there any comments, question on all these aspects for all the three speakers? Message, information, comments, something for improving discussion. If not, I wrote a note just to remember what I want to discuss. Just for improving discussion, I start first, but then if you want to act as a discussant, don't worry. I want to ask you something to Jean-Xavier first. In your opinion, how the consumer preferences changed over the years. I mean, and especially among the generation. Do you feel that the preferences of consumers changed over, for example, my generation, your generation, and the generation of the young person now, or is it stable? I mean, the preferences.
So. As I answer this question, it'd be nice if I could get the last slide from my talk, which I didn't get to show, and it's kind of important. Well, here's the last slide that I wanted to show, which was the people who actually did the work that I talked about. And Sarah Yang, who is in the middle at the bottom of the slide, is a PhD candidate who did the research. Gemma Pasquali, who is in the room here, also collaborated on the work. And then two chefs, one from Villa Campestri, Christian Borci, and then Bill Brewer from the CIA. So to your question, what we find is that the sense of smell is the most important determinant of what you like or dislike. And olfactory preferences are mostly learned based on exposure. So as you're exposed to different smells, you learn to like them or dislike them based on the experience that you get from them. So as a result, a lot of this is strongly entrenched and doesn't change very quickly. So if you take somebody, move them to a different country, they're going to learn a new language before they learn a new cuisine, typically. Having said that, what we find is that younger generations, like millennials, are much more neophilic or less neophobic than older generations. And so they're more prone to trying new things. They embrace new technology more readily, for example. And so as a result, they're going to make those changes in their diet a bit more easily than older generations.
Okay, so there was a change among generation about preferences, and the younger generation are prone and susceptible to changes. So can we change something about the preferences and the tastes of food?
Yes, we can, and the reason is quite simple. It's because they're exposed to a much broader range of cuisines than we were when we grew up, and so they're more willing to try them. So if you live in London, in Madrid, or in San Francisco, you can eat a different kind of food every night, and that's not something that we were able to do. And so as a result, because we said that all it takes is for people to see this is rancid and fusty, this is fruity and grassy and bitter and pungent. And all the flavor profiles out there, if we show that to them, they're going to go straight for the one that is good, healthy, and that they like. So the possibility to change is much greater in the Western world than it was 50 years ago, for sure.
I don't know if there are any comments. But did you think that, or did you find the differences among countries, not among countries, small countries, among Europe, North America, which are more susceptible to change the flavors? I mean, because I think my feeling is that probably in U.S. person have different feels and different tastes and different smells than what we have here in Europe in general, with different preferences, but probably are more susceptible to changes than here. That we are probably more, I don't know, steady or more convinced about our foods, and if you change something here, it's more difficult to do that. I don't know if what you're feeling about.
I agree 100% with what you just said, and it also has to do with the diversity of the population here in Europe, even though it's changing very quickly with immigration, compared to the US, which is a nation of immigrants. So you do have that melting pot where you get that exposure to all these different cuisines and learn to like different things.
Yes, Simon.
So it was fascinating to hear about the additional nutritional value of ancient grains, which not many people are consuming. It was also fascinating to hear about the importance of sensory properties of good quality extra virgin olive oil, which again, not many people are consuming in significant amounts. And similarly, wild herbs, greens, again, are not part of our modern dietary pattern and paradigm. So how do we get this fascinating, compelling science into people's kitchens? Maybe Professor Chandon has got some thoughts about it, because you probably have not got enough evidence for an EFSA claim, because we all know how hard those are to achieve, but how do we get people understanding these really important messages and changing their diet to adopt these kind of quality products and value them?
If I start, these EFSA claims, the ones that I mentioned, can be used. They are legal because they are just related to nutrients. So those they are related to nutrients, if they really fit the requirements, you can use that. But of course, the problem is when you go to the fresh market, the local producers don't know this, and they don't advertise their products properly. So it's a responsibility of us, the scientists, to help the producers and the growers and the local people to put in value their products. And as an example, in Madrid, now there is some restaurants that they only use wild plants in their recipes. So it's a way, economically it can be done. And it's good because the menu changes during the year, of course, depending on the availability. And that's good. If they are not in nature, they are not in the cuisine. So it's another good thing. Instead to have a fixed menu, you have different menu on the different seasons of the years because the fruits or the veggies are different. So it can be.
In the reality, the pasta and bread for the ancient variety are very expensive. So it's not easy to extend to everybody this one. We have to insist on the industry, in the transformation, in the production of new variety. We have to spend attention to the kind of new variety that we have to produce to obtain pasta and bread, quality in healthy quality in pasta and bread. We can try to sensibilize the people. Some people start to eat and spend a lot of money also to have pasta, for example, is the good pasta, the artisan pasta is 10 euros per kilo, and so expensive with respect to other pasta that you can buy with €1.50 at the kilo. So it's important, is also to sensibilize the consumer to improve the quality, to spend a little more. But at the same time, we have to push the industry to produce a new kind of pasta, utilize a new kind of wheat and the breeding program has paid attention to this kind of characteristics of wheat. There is this possibility, so we have to do, especially for the children, because they are very sensible to this kind.
I mean, we have experience here for ancient grains now since 10 years, about.
More or less, yeah.
So here in Tuscany we had a good experience because it's a slow process. I mean, we need time, but if we give a good information, the correct information, saying what is good and what is not good in these terms, and the consumer preferences, I mean, it's a good thing, because if you try to insert a new or a traditional food, but it's not is healthy, but it's not delicious, it's failed, of course, and Jean-Xavier can tell us. But if it's good, as is it good, and the smell is good, the taste is good, the flavors are very good, so the person and understand is healthy. In a slow process, we can do a lot. It's important to say that it's not the solution of all the problems, of course. This is just it's like a Mediterranean diet. It is an example. It should be an example to transmit values to other things, but we need to find other things. Ancient grains are just an example of other things, like wild plant foods are an examples of something we can do with good sustainability, economical good, sometimes good, but we can do also for being healthy. I don't know, Professor Tricopoli would like to.
Well, I think.
Yes.
See what happened with with olive oil. Go back 20 years ago. Olive oil was not in the market or in the supermarket. Olive oil was sold as medication in the northern European countries in pharmacies. So what first of all is needed? It's good scientific papers in very good journal. If you have that, automatically Reuters and the other, the journalists, they are coming. And then they create a momentum about this new finding. I found extremely interesting this story about the dough, the sourdough. We could discuss a lot about that. But we need a very good paper. We need very good data. And by the time they have been published, then the producers, they might be interested. They might not be interested because they are interested in public health.
Oh, no.
Because they are interested in gaining money. But that's good.
It's okay, yeah.
That's good.
I agree.
So we are on the same line. And after that, automatically, the consumers, they are aware of that. So we need good science and we need good publication. And another comment about the excellent presentation of Montana, may I bring to your attention that in the Greek nutrition guidelines, under the section of vegetables, clearly is mentioned in our pyramid, don't forget the wild greens. There is a long tradition, I mean, at least in Greece and of consuming wild greens. We have more than 100 varieties of eatable wild greens, edible. Which they are edible wild greens, which they can. Even some of them they are now cultivated. They are not anymore wild, and we eat them in the form of pita. So try to find the recipes which of the past. I know that in Apulia they are using a lot of wild greens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, are there any other questions or comments? Yes, bro.
I want to ask a question that is a real, very discussed question. What is your opinion about the OGM food? That is the modified food genetic modified food, because the academy, our academy is in favor. Of course, there are all problems, but of the point of view of the technology, is only a copy of the mechanisms of the nature. So there are other questions, but of the point of view of sciences, what is your opinion?
Very interesting question.
I've been the director of 2 PhD studies related to OGMs, and one of them was about edible vaccines, and another one was about the maize. Maize is cultivated in Spain over now more than 15 years, and we have been doing all the food risk analysis. And in terms of science, to start with the end, I'm in favor. I'm in favor means that since now there is no any scientific evidence that is bad for health. Well, I'm talking about health. Then we can talk about the economy, we can talk the social impact, we can talk the management and other things. But in terms of scientific or health problems, and in these 15 years in Spain that we cultivate the maize and we commercialize the soybean, and same with different countries, like here in Italy, even if they don't produce, they can buy and use. There is not any single evidence that is bad for health, for human health. In the EFSA, also now the environmental health, it's also very important. And it's, with the GMO products, in the EFSA, is the only kind of product that is at the same level of importance if it is for food, human nutrition, or for feed, for animal nutrition. They have to fit the same regulation and they have to fit the same requirements in terms of safety. Same thing with the environment. You can, even if it's good for health, but if it's bad for the environment, then it's not approved. So I can say that until now, there is not any single food in the market that has to follow that regulation. Not any single food. Other thing is to consider about the technology. Should we do this? Should not we do this? Do we have enough food? We don't have. Who has the profit or who has not? But that's a philosophical point of view on economic or social impact. But in terms of health, from our results that I've been working with this since I was in '96 in the United States, working with the first fruit, that it was the tomato fruit, working there like a normal fruit. When I returned to Europe, and it was '97, and it was the big controversy, all the social problems. So I've been involved in this debate, and I wanted to know what was the people, what the reason people was worried. So I was checking the social perception, and at the same time, I went back to the lab and I say, okay, let's go and analyze. And of course, first day, I will just check that there's any problem for health. I will say that. But until now, I have to say that from the health problems, there's no scientific evidence. Other problems we can discuss.
I'll just add a couple of things, a couple of answers about the consumer perspective. 20 years ago, I was head of consumer research for Danone in Paris, and we were doing some studies, and what we found is that American consumers were more concerned about the potential safety implications of GMO foods, whereas European consumers were much more concerned about the ethics of messing with nature. Just that simple difference, which again, cultural differences are always coming into play, but on GMOs 20 years ago when they were coming onto the scene, it was fascinating to see how Americans and Europeans were thinking or approaching the problem completely differently. Safety versus ethics.
But at the biodiversity level is very dangerous because we reduce the biodiversity of our crops. So this means that we have no opportunity to adapt the crops to the environment changes. So if we produce MGO, we start with one cell to reproduce one cell. Normally when we make a selection, we start for the wheat from the spike, just one spike. There are different kernels inside. With MGO, we start with one cell, so we reduce more the biodiversity, also the chemical composition of the cells. So I'm very afraid about the MGO in the spread this kind of cultivation around the world, because in this way we cannot adapt the biodiversity to the environment changes, and also different environment situation. We have to drastically modify the environment to adapt to the plants. The natural law is adapt the genotype to the environment. But if we start with just one cells, we cannot have this opportunity to develop our gene pool, our biodiversity to adapt to the environment. So I'm very afraid about it. I'm working with our GMO because we try to understand the function of the genes. It's very important. It's very important techniques. But to actually also the plant breeding for all the crops is reducing the biodiversity. With MGO, we reduce drastically the biodiversity. This is the problem from my point of view.
I mean, oh, sorry.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, of course.
I completely agree with the biodiversity in one crop, especially, that is soybean. The statistic of 2016, last year, is that almost 80% of the total land that is soybean is cultivated. Right now, 78 is already OGM. So the reduction of biodiversity in soybean is true, and it can be a problem. With the other varieties, it's less than 30%. But on the other hand, by example, with the wheat, there is a group in Spain that has developed a gluten-free wheat in Cordoba, in Spain. So it's it has to be a combination of all of that. But to reach 80% just with one crop is not good. I completely agree.
I mean, I think it's a difficult question because we need to answer from different sides, from different points, because there's an environmental thing, there is a biodiversity point of view, of a natural things, a health way, an economic thing. You know probably that Italy is generally against the GMO, and the government is at phase, at the first phase is against. It stopped there was a ban.
The utilization.
Yes, okay, but the perspection of the preference of consumers is difficult for GMO, because if you say the person, do you consume GMO, they will say, oh no, or especially here in Italy, no. Also with the horrifying face, say no, come on. But if you say, but do you consume soybean? And do you know that soybean is about 80% GMO now, at the moment? They will say, no, I don't know that. So this it's difficult to face with this problem. I mean, my opinion is that there is a good perspective in terms of scientific thing. We need to work on that because it's important, because especially in other countries, not here in Italy, but in other countries, we need to do something for expansion, for example, for malnutrition, for some foodborne illnesses in Africa or in other countries. Probably here we don't need a lot of GMO, because we have a lot of variability of foods we can use, wild plants, other foods we can restore, we can regenerate. That probably we don't need a lot of transforming other foods or creating new foods to have a nutraceutical approach or property, or I don't know. This is my opinion. I want to be just a little bit provocative. It's true that we don't have data that is not healthy or is detrimental, but it's like the organic and the non-organic. We don't have data on organic. If you look at the paper, scientific paper, we don't have any scientific paper saying that organic agriculture products made by organic the organic agriculture have a better nutritional profile. No one. But if you ask to all of us, saying it's good to do organic agriculture with respect to intensive agriculture, all of us will say, yes, it's better to do organic agriculture. So it's difficult. I mean, I don't have an answer, a right answer, but it's difficult. It's a good question, and it's difficult to answer.
But the actual agricultural system start to reduce the cultivation because we don't take care of the fertility of the soil. We just take away everything from our soil, and we intend to reintroduce it with the chemical fertilization. Doesn't work in this way. We have to work to maintain the fertility. I don't say the organic is the best system, but I would like to say that we have to change our mind. We have to look at the soil with another point of view. We have to respect the vitality of the soil. It's not just a support of our plants. We have to take consideration because all the phenomena associated with the fertility of the soil is the water erosion. Everything is start to has a very is not possible extend the cultivation with the modern system. We have to develop a new system in organic idea. We cannot say, okay, we made a very deep plugging the soil. Now we know that they teach to me that we have to plug the soil very deep when I study university. Now we reach to say, no, we have to respect, just working the very surface, just a few centimeters deep, the working on the soil. Because we have to respect the vitality of the soil. Until now, we don't take care of these important things. Now we have to develop a new system. But it's not just chemical system, not just herbicide or pesticide that we start to utilize more and more, because we cannot stop the system that we start. We have to improve every time the input on the soil. We have to stop it. We have to say this system is not good. We have to find another system. I don't say organic like 100 years ago. I just say we have to develop a new system. We have to develop a new breeding system also for particular production, also for organic. They say organic doesn't produce, there is no high yield as in conventional agriculture. I know, because nobody developed a new variety for the organic, for example. We don't spend a lot of activity, agronomic activity for the organic agriculture. That's the problem. We have to start to another system to cultivate our soil.
The renaissance of agriculture.
Yeah, the renaissance of agriculture.
No, I mean, I'm not the expert of this field. About
we have to utilize a lot of technology for the organic field.
We need to use the scientific evidence, which is a lot. I mean, we have a lot of evidence on this to develop new system, because probably what we did in the past as agricultural techniques is not sustainable. As a different point of view of economical, environmental, health sustainable, and health, of course. So probably it's not this one the good method, but we need to find another method, because in this way, if we look at the future generation, we don't know what we are going to do, because if you continue to do this the intensive agriculture as like intensive production, probably we will not have the better the nutritional profile you find in wild plants, because wild plants probably will be destroyed because no one will interest about these things. Don't know. There are any questions? May I ask you something to Montana?
Yeah.
there is a general knowledge about among consumers that wild products are better than cultivated products. This is a general knowledge about the general population. If you talk about general population, you would say, what do you think about the wild things? Wild species, wild fish, they're better than cultivated, than farmed, and so on. But this is really true. I mean, especially for wild things or wild products like vegetables or fruits, it's really true that the wild things have a better nutritional profile in terms of micronutrients, mineral, or it's just general knowledge without any scientific evidence.
Yes, in general, yes. And to give you an example, I'm not going to talk of these wild varieties, I'm going to talk to you about tomato. We have been working with more than 40 varieties also of tomato, from the original ones from Peru, Ecuador, and Mexico, comparing with the commercial ones in the United States and in Europe. I can say either the same in Spain or Italy. And the first thing you can see is for the wild fruits, that is more easy to think about. Wild fruits are very small because they survive better. They need less water, and water is very scarce, and has very high nutritional value. And it's a reasonable thing. But once we go to the crops and we put the tomato and we want to make it more productive, once you increase the production, you decrease in some quality. It can be sometimes it's the vitamin C, sometimes it changes the flour, sometimes it's the sugar content, and even more if the crop you can harvest green, like it's the tomato, and you store it, and then it doesn't ripe on the vine, it ripes in a store. Of course, the flavor and the nutrients are not the same. So that is obvious. And of course, we want bigger fruits. We don't want small, very small fruits of everything. We want things that are big. So in terms of this selection of fruits in terms of size and production, we are losing some of the good properties. But for that, there is a thing that is called the germoplasm, that is like the libraries, but for seeds, where all the seeds, the ancient seeds, are collected. And the good thing is to have as much biodiversity, different crops as much, and to cultivate more different varieties. But of course, the ones who want to make profit, they just choose the one who make more profit and is more stable, because on the other hand, once you go to consumers, sometimes there are consumers that want the same size, the same shape, the same color. Other ones, they can go well with different shapes, different colors. So things are changing. With tomato, there was years ago, everybody wants same size tomato. Now it's more, we look that it's more natural, that they have different size and different colors. But the general answer is yes.
Yes. Okay. Just before going to Simon. Sorry, but do you think that this is related to the biodiversity? I mean, related to the number of species that are present, or is just generally?
It's generally.
It's okay.
It's generally.
Simon.
So this is a really interesting and varied, fascinating discussion. I'd like to pick up on where I left my talk and ask the panel about what they would like to see included in a letter to the G7 health ministers in Milan to encourage and exhort them to inspire the kind of renaissance in food values that we've been talking about. I'd love to hear any suggestions from the panel about what we should include, what priorities governments and policy makers should make to improve the nutrition of the world.
Maybe one key thing is to improve the diversity in the diet. So it will be, we should choose more different products to get the nutrients from different sources, to put in value the local products and the seasonable products, and to try different food and different taste and different things. So there will be more, our diet could be more diverse, and being more diverse is more rich.
Well, one suggestion that I would make about funding, because these people are always asked to manage funding on behalf of all their agencies. There is a lot of funding for nutrition science, health-related disciplines. I think doing more work on the behavioral side of things, so behavioral nutrition funding, because we understand the mechanisms, we understand the implications of different nutrients on health. But the piece we're struggling with, and that was clearly made yesterday, is how do we change behavior? So more research on behavioral nutrition, I think, would be warranted.
May I ask you one thing, Jean-Xavier? Do you know, probably last year here in Italy we had a change on type of fats we had in biscuits or something. Do you know the problem we had with the palm oil that was substituted with sunflower in some cases, and the consumers doesn't understand a lot. I mean, it's a good thing for the consumer, but they didn't feel any changes. So the substitution of fats, in your opinion, with respect to the research you are doing, which is very interesting, replacing butter with olive oil, do you think that is really, sensible or to changes in this way? Because here in Italy, we changed all the fats in biscuits, and no one said, okay, I feel taste a little bit different. So why didn't they do in the past if this is not really impressive as tastes? And what are you feeling about replacing a butter which is very strong with olive oil as a test, with olive oil?
It has to be a two-punch approach. We've witnessed, we do every day witness the incredible power of communication. We saw how it can win elections, for example, with the power of social media. I think if we get the message out about the health benefits at the same time as we show the consumers, or we give them access and exposure to those delicious products, for the first time now they see that something that's good for them can also be delicious, they're going to embrace it right away. So the work we did on replacing beef with mushrooms, where mushrooms, through their umami properties, can maintain the flavor of a taco feel of a lasagna, or has led to some changes in the meals that are given to children in schools in the US, has led to changes to meatball pizza from Pizza Hut. Those are major changes. So if you can combine strong messaging, effective messaging about the health benefits with delivering the deliciousness, you're in business.
Yes, that's what we needed to force, because we need to take into account the nutritional aspect, but of course the economical aspect, but also the delicious aspect. Because if we create something which is good for nutritional way, but it's untasty and because during the last 20 years, nutritional scientists as food technologists doesn't care about the taste and the smell. Just to create, for example, omega-3 inside the milk. But if you taste the milk with the omega-3, you taste the smell of fish. It's completely untasty. I mean, it could be also beneficial for my health, but I don't care about that. So we needed to take into account also the smell thing, because the preferences of the consumers are important, because if not, we don't have any kind of solution. But do you think that is it sustainable in future to think about the replacement of all fats with olive oil in US as an economical point of view?
No, and I think we can make a lot of progress, but you have a very diverse population in the US, which comes with many different cuisines in terms of their backgrounds. The people who have a diet similar to what their European diets might be would be very likely to embrace olive oil if they don't already do so. But for people who come from other parts of the world, it's a bit more of a challenge. But it doesn't matter. I think each cuisine has its own healthy and not so healthy alternatives.
Yes.
So if we can just promote, as we do olive oil within a European type of diet, promote healthy oils or fats for other types of cuisines, everybody would be healthier. But olive oil itself may not work for everybody everywhere.
Yes, of course. It's like Mediterranean diet we said yesterday. Probably that is not good, beneficial for everyone.
Among other reasons, because the ingredients are not available everywhere.
Yes, of course.
I mean, the Mediterranean diet, as its name indicates, is the Mediterranean. So you have some similar climates, maybe in California, similar crops, but other parts of the world will not give you access to the same grains and legumes and vegetables.
We need to do something in relation with the preferences about the grains and olive oil together, because the feeling of me and Paolo is that if you consume the bread by itself and you consume olive oil by itself, you have a preference in taste and smell. If you consume in combination, you have a different tastes. So we need to do that on the preferences, because it probably is not an addition, is a multiplication of the effect. This is not the answer, but I want the first question.
There is a clear flavor enhancement that happens when you have that. I mean, olive oil does that to just about anything. You put it on, and wow, a lot of things come out. And in Roma, at the first Food Value Conference, we had the pleasure of eating that bread, the traditional bread with outstanding olive oil, and I think everybody got a kick out of that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, perfectly in time, we finish this session. Thank you very much to all the speakers. It's very